Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Menachos Pedalid. We begin 10 lines off the bottom, Tanan Hassam, so we go straight to a Mishnah in Meseches Shekalim, which says like this, Shomri Sfichen B'Shvi. So it's the 7th year's Shemitah. There are no real, organized crops growing this year. You're not meant to cultivate land in Eretz Yisrael on Shemitah on the 7th year. So we have, at most, we have some sfichen, some wild growing grain, which is going to be used. We're going to have to find some barley for our Eimer, right, for the Menachos on the 16th day of Nisan, which is meant to come from fresh crop. So how do we go about doing this? How do we ensure that we obtain fresh crops? So we have the Shomrim. We appoint some watchmen, some guards. We give them the task of guarding those wild growing grains. Svichna, these wild growing, generally they just pop up because there's some, from the kernel droppings during the time of harvest. So Shomri Svichen B'Shvius, the ones who are tasked with watching these Svichen, on the 7th year, they get paid, of course, they get their wages. Mitrumas halishka, that's the Machzas HaShekel collection. So the lishka is that chamber where they gather all the coins that were contributed by the members of Klal Yisrael on a yearly basis. So the truma, that's the part that they take in order to portion that they remove from the lishka in order to finance the karbanis, part of that money goes to pay for this expense as well, because this, after all, is to facilitate the akrava of the karban aimer. Okay, so that's the halach. Rami lay. So the following question was asked by Rami Bar Chama to who? The Rav Chisda. I have a question. Tanan. Let's take a look at that Mishnah. Shomri Svichen B'Shvius Noitlan Schorim Trumas Halishka. Okay? V'raminu, here comes a question. How could you even use Shemitah material for Eimer? After all, part of that mincha is going to be burnt on the Mizbeach, the Kmitza part, right? And the pasuk says, La'achla, Shvius food is specifically meant for personal consumption. La'achla, for yourself, for your animals, for like the Sreifa, not for burning purposes. So how could you? Amalis, he says, what do you mean? Rachmana Amar L'chal L'derasechem. So what are you suggesting? That we suspend the Eimer this year? Torah says L'derasechem. The Eimer is an annual, a yearly thing for all times, including Shemitah. But Amar Stibata, you're suggesting that we suspend, that we cancel the Eimer this year? Amalis says, no, that's not what I meant. We kamina anotibata. Did I suggest that we cancel it? Of course, do the Eimer, but who's to say you have to use current fresh crop? Well, I see. Midesh Takad, use the last year's material from the 6th year. She says you can't, but we need to fulfill the pasuk. Carmel. Pasuk calls it carmel, the fresh, rach, malay, soft, moist, plump, beleka. If it's last year's, it's dried and shriveled. Says the Gemara, okay, v'laisi mikarmel deishtakad, bring last year's fresh. Now Rashi learns, bring from last year's tefut that was cut when it was nice, moist, and fresh, which the Gemara at this point figures that's enough, as long as it was cut fresh. That's enough. You meant to cut it when it's fresh. V'laisi mikarmel deishtakad amakro. Says the Gemara, no, that's not what the pasuk means. Karmel takriv. Pasuk says, offer it as fresh material. Beina, that's what we need. Beina karmel b'shas hakrava. You need it to be fresh and moist and plump as you are offering it. V'leka, if it's last year's, it's not going to work. Itmar, here comes a machlokes regarding the reason. What's the basis for only using fresh material? Rabbi Yechon Amar karmel takriv. Based on this pasuk, it's got to be carmel when you are being makrivit. So last year's just won't do it. Rabbi Lazo Omer, it's a pasuk. Reishis K'tzircha. The pasuk says it's going to be the first of the harvest. Reishis K'tzircha. It's coming at a time when you're beginning to harvest. So it's the fresh material of this year's harvest, which is just beginning to be processed. As opposed to last year's material, which is now already after the fact. So it's not the the time of the beginning of the harvest, and therefore it doesn't qualify. Ma'asev Rabbah. So now we have two ways to understand. Rabbi Yochanan is based on Carmel, the status, the quality of the actual material. Rabbi Elazar is based on the fact that it has to be rachis. Ma'asev Rabbah. Rabbah has a question from a brisa on Rabbi Yochanan's approach, because in this brisa we're going to see that it's based on the fact that it has to be the first, has to be the new crop, not necessarily because of Carmel. Ma'asev Rabbah. V'im takriv minchas bikurim. Pasuk speaks about them bringing in mincha. Which mincha? B'minchas ha'omer ha'akasim medaber. The pasuk is referring to minchas ha'omer. Now, we know the mincha comes on the 16th day of Nisan, but what is it made from? Is it wheat, which is standard fare for your regular mincha, or is it barley, which is something unique? It hails from barley. You're telling me it's barley, or maybe it's meant to be coming from wheat? So we have no less than three answers. First is Rabbi Elazar Omer. We have Gzera Shava. Nema Aviv. We have the word Aviv back in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim back by Makas Barat. At the hail struck down, right? The barley, because it was already grown, it's Aviv, freshly grown. V'namar Aviv l'deres. We have the word Aviv later on, describing the Minchas Bikurim being Aviv. So we connect Ma Aviv. Just like by Mitzrayim where it says Aviv, it's a reference to barley. Af Aviv. Likewise, Aviv over here by Minchas Omer is barley. Rabbi Kiva Omer, I'll tell you how we know it's barley. We find that an individual, a private person, sometimes brings a wheat mincha, right? A standard obligatory mincha is chitin. Rashi says minchas choite. If he sins, he has to bring one made of wheat. And likewise, there is a barley option as well by a soita, right? Minchas knois. It's made from barley. Maybe mechayvasai. There's another variation of an obligatory private mincha, minas ha'orim. So just like a yachid has both variations, let's assume correspondingly the public, the community, the tzibur, when they bring their menachos, they have both variations in their repertoire as well. V'af tzibur maybe chavasim nachitin. On the one hand, they'll bring some from chitin, that's the shtei alechem, or maybe chavasim na'sa'orim. And you have to find me another option, another instance where they'll bring sa'orim, because you want to, sort of shore up the puzzle, right? Complete the missing puzzle piece. So there must be a case where it's sa'orim, which must be minchas omer. If you're going to insist that omer is from chitin, you won't have an instance where the tzibur brings sa'orim. That compels us to conclude that minchas omer indeed is sa'orim. Davar acher, another reason for this is, if you'll insist that omer is comprised of chitin, then it's going to result in the following situation. Ein shtei alechem bikurim. The shtei alechem on Shavuos is meant to be the first of its type, right? Bikurim. Well, it's not, because Omer has already been brought from chitin. The fact that the Torah considers shtei alechem as being the first of its type, apparently, because chitin were not yet brought. The Omer, that's Omer. Alma. So, bottom line is, how does this pertain? What does this pertain to us? Rabbah referred to this price as a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. How do we know that he meant to use fresh material for the Omer? So, according to Rabbi Yochanan, because it needs to be caramel fresh. Well, let's say you can have last year and still fresh. You freeze dried it. I don't know, so it's still fresh. It would be okay. But according to Rabbi Elazar, no, it has to be rachis ketzircha. Has to come at a time where it's the beginning of the harvest, this year's harvest, and likewise over here in the brisa, teaches that the shtei alechem is going to be the first of this year's crop, because it's called bikurim, right? And likewise, says the Mefarshim explain, likewise the minchas ha'omer, which is also referred to as bikurim, right, or rachis, like Rabbi Elazar brought. It also refers to this type of phenomenon. It's got to be the first sampling of this year's crop. So that in fact is the basis for this requirement, not because of Carmel, and therefore it's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Not also. Okay, so we learned about the best quality material that's sought for the Omer, for the Shtei Alechem, for other Menachos. What about Bikurim, which is the first fruit that you bring to the Beis Hamikdash, right? Tan Hassam. So we have a Mishnah, Meseches Bikurim. Ein mevin Bikurim chutz mishivas haminim. You don't bring Bikurim unless it's of these 7 special species, the special minim. That's the wheat, barley, grapes, pomegranate, dates, right? So the halacha of Bikurim is limited to those 7 types. Now, even within those types, you should ensure that it's properly cultivated, high quality. V'loi mitmarash b'harim. You don't bring of the dates that grow up in the mountains, which aren't best quality. V'loi miperish b'makam nor, from grain growing in the valleys, which are not conducive for proper development of these specific species. Amarullah. Now let's say he did. Okay, he has his dates growing up on the mountain. It may be like Kiddush. If he brings it, it doesn't work. So this is in contrast to a mincha, let's say, where there too you meant to bring the best. Shenston the best, right? Like we learned back in the Mishnah. But there, it's just it's a good thing, it's a mitzvah, but the eved, after the fact, you bring something, a little bit less in quality. It's also fine. But by Bikurim, it's different. It's going to be based on the pasuk later. Mei Reishis, Torah emphasizes, it's got to be the best. But if it's a certain type of growth which does not produce good quality, doesn't yield good quality crops, like the dates on the mountains, like the peiros in the valley, it doesn't even work. So it doesn't become kaddish as Bikurim. Yosef Rabba, so Rabba was saying over this big chiddush, big halacha, that if one proposes inferior quality material for the Bikurim, it doesn't work. He has to question the Rabba to Rabba from a brayso where it seems otherwise. It seems like even if it's poorly cultivated crops, it can still be used for Bikurim. So the pasuk here, Karban Reishis, is actually a pasuk by the Shtei Alechem, right? It's meant to be the first, right? The first in the door. Shtei Reishis l'chal Menachos. Shtei Alechem is meant to be the first offering of this year's crop. Meaning, it's meant to precede any other mincha of this year's crop. Okay, so you don't bring other menachos using this year's material before the Shtei Alechem. That sort of opens the door, clears the way for everything else. Likewise, we have the pasuk which calls it Ba'akrivchem mincha chadash shel Hashem b'shavu yiseichem. So it's got to be the chadash, the first, the one that inaugurates this year's offerings. Okay. So perhaps it's only meant to be the first of wheat offerings, which are, the more prominent grains. What do we know? How do we know that it's meant to be the first of the barley as well? Meaning that you don't bring barley offerings before the Shtei Alechem. So the pasuk repeats the word chadasha once and again to emphasize Shtei Alechem is the first in the door. If it's not needed for the wheat, because we already know that, the chadash shel to now apply it to teach that it precedes all barley offerings as well. Okay. How do we know Shtei Alechem is meant to precede all Bikurim offerings as well? Meaning you don't bring Bikurim of this year's material before the Shtei Alechem. Talmud Loimar, it says V'chag Shavuos Tas L'cha. First you celebrate Shavuos with the Shtei Alechem, and then Bikurim Tzirchitim bring the Bikurim. Bikurim Tzirchitim, okay, perhaps it comes before the Bikurim of wheat. What about Bikurim of barley? Right, again, the same back and forth. Tzir So'er Minayim, Talmud Loimar, V'chag HaKotze, Bikurim Asecha, Asher Tizr Basodeh, the Shtei Alechem, which is going to be coming on Shavuos, which is called Chag HaKotzer, precedes all Bikurim Asecha, of everything, whether it's wheat or barley. Perhaps it only precedes properly planted and cultivated crops, because of their prominence is meant to come first before them. What about if they're just wild growths? They're not so substantial, not so significant, not so chashiv. So who's to say that they can't just come whenever? How do we know that there too the Shtei Alechem comes first? Anything in the field. Okay, so perhaps fine, anything in the field. But what about if it grows up on your rooftop? Today they have these like terraces where they lay some sod and they plant trees up on the 50th floor. It grows, but it's not the optimal growing environment for these things. What if you have something growing up on the rooftop? And like a broken ruins, some sort of outdoor ruins, which you can grow something there, but it's not really conducive to proper growth. Or on a flower pot, on a ship. So the Shtei Lechem is meant to precede all these. It's meant to be the first offering, period. Okay, bottom line is, and this is why we even got into the whole discussion here, because we're going to show that you can bring bikurim from something growing up on the rooftop, and the churva, the atzitz, which are not considered high quality materials, and we see it works. That's a kasha on Ulu who says poor stuff doesn't work. Okay, let's just finish the brayso. How do we know that the Shtei Lechem is meant to come before even the sachem, the new wine, all that, with parshanut or all types of fruits from from trees, tamarim, zaysim, all those things that you're going to bring as bikurim. Basically, how do we know Shtei Lechem is the first in the door for everything? Shnemar kan bikuri ma'asecha, because over here it says bikuri ma'asecha. Right, so the Shtei Lechem comes on Shavuos, bikurim v'nemar lahalam ba'aspachas ma'asecha ben asada. And later on, when it talks about Shavuos, it says Shavuos is the time when you gather all your crops from the sada malahalon nesachim peresilon, just like on Shavuos. It's a time to celebrate the gathering of all the crops, whether it's wine, whether it's fruit. Avkan nesachim peresilon, likewise. The Shtei Lechem is meant to be the first and precede everything. Any type of korban, whether it's mincha, whether it's bikurim, whether it's bikurim of grain, bikurim of fruit, or even wine offerings. End of halach. Let's just do a quick reference back to the statement in the brayso, which made mention of something growing up on the rooftop, shebagad, shebachurva, shebatzis, shebasvina, which will be used as bikurim. Hold it; these aren't top quality materials. How could they be brought as bikurim? It's a kasha on Ulu who says if they're poorly grown crops, it doesn't work. Seifas on the Menachos. No, that part of the brayso is talking about a mincha. For bikurim, you need top quality. You need properly cultivated crops. But menachos, okay. So there, although ideally it should be the best, but even if it's something grown in these environments, it can still be used. Maskeflor of Adabar. I have a question. He says, how could you learn that it's a mincha? But the pasuk, the brayso, uses as a source for those poorly grown materials. It reads like this: Bikuri kol asher ba'artzam, anything growing anywhere, right? Asher yiviu l'Hashem l'chayiyeh kol tahor b'veischa yichlenu. So the pasuk allows every tahor, any person that's tahor in the kohen's household, whether it's men or women, to eat this material. Now that only works if it's bikurim that we're talking about, because bikurim is good for anybody in the kohen's family. But a mincha, we learned the other day, is limited to zecharim amongst the kohanim. So how could you say this discussion in the brayso, which connects to this pasuk of kol tahor b'veischa, is a mincha? Maskal rather Rabbi Yochi. If so, how do you explain the pasuk that's attached to this halach in the brayso? Kol tahor b'veischa, which means anybody in the household, even women. We're talking about menachos. That's limited to men. L'zichar kuno de misachlan. Can only be eaten by men. Amar B'shash, you're right. Treikor Ksivi. Really, this very pasuk sort of has to be spliced into two. The first pasuk, which says l'chayeh, is going on the male kohanim. That's for the mincha, and that's what the brayso was referring to. That it's the next part of the pasuk called Torah B'Veischa. That's on the bikurim. Treikor Ksivi. L'chayeh, ksiv. It says first l'chayeh, uksiv kol tahor b'veischa yichal oisai. And they're two different halachas. Okay, so how do you work this out? Kan b'bikurim, the second part is talking about bikurim, so even for women. Kan, the first part, l'chayeh, is b'menachos. That's only for the men, that's menachos. Okay, so we sort of stick with our explanation in the Brisa, that we're talking about material for Menachos, but if it's for Bikurim, it won't work unless they're properly cultivated crops. Rav Ashi Amar Kuli b'Menachos. He has another twist on this answer. He says, look, no, the pasuk completely, from beginning to end, can in fact be referring to Menachos, as we are saying, which makes it consistent with the Brisa. What about the second part of the pasuk, which says anybody can eat it, even the women? The sefer the cross on lachmei toida. Second part of the pasuk talking about a different variation of a mincha, the breads of a toida, which is sort of a mincha, but sort of isn't. So in contrast to a regular mincha, which is limited to men, zecharim, amongst the kohanim for consumption, but the lachmei toida can be eaten by anybody, as we discussed back in Maseches Zvachim. Okay, so in any case, let's go back to our original point. Dates on the mountains, grains in the valley, things growing on the rooftops, etc., which aren't, properly cultivated yields. Do they work for Bikurim? According to Ula, no. But actually, it's a machlekes amaroin. Rabbi Yechon Amar imhevi like Kiddush. Even if he brings it, it doesn't work. He's like Ula, who says, listen, if it's not proper quality, it's not suitable. Reish Lakish Amar Mehevi Kiddush. He says, look, if you bring it, it works. Why? Because no different than any other carbon. It's like a weak, poor quality, animal. You meant to bring the best, but if it's poor quality, it still works. So this is no different. Okay, so this we understand. Bishloima Reish Lakish Kadamar Tamer. So I fully understand Reish Lakish's position. It's no different than a carbon. It's meant to be best, but if it's not, it still works. El Rabbi Yechon, my time. How do you explain Rabbi Yechonon? I mean, just because it's not the best, just because it's not, why doesn't it work? Listen to this. Amar Belaza, listen to this. He says, I had a dream. And who did I see my dream? Rabbi Yechonon. And now I'll certainly be able to clarify his position. Rabbi Yechonon chazoi b'chaylam. I saw Rabbi Yechonon in my dream. And I am certain, Milsam Alisa, I'm going to be saying good stuff today. And be able to explain his opinion. Perhaps he explained it to him in the dream. Amakro, in any case, what was the explanation? The pasuk in describing the process of bringing bikurim says like this: you're meant to bring mei reishis from the first of the crop, mei artzach from your land, right? Mei reishis tells you not every fruit is a candidate for bikurim. V'lo kol reish, not everything. In fact, we can see in a minute it's limited to the shiva saminim, right? And then when it says mei artzach from your land, not everything is suitable. V'lo kol artzach. Only properly grown, properly cultivated crops. There you go. That's our source. Rish Lakish who disagrees. Well, that okay, even if it's poor, it still works. What does he do with me'artzecha? It's needed for something else. We have the word eretz over here, right? Me'artzecha. We have the word eretz mentioned by the Shiva Asaminim, and we connect. And that's how we know that Bikurim is limited to Shiva Saminim. Ma'alahalon shach eretz, just like over there, the pasuk is enumerating the praises and the listing the unique species found in Eretz Yisrael, the Shiva Saminim. Afkan shach eretz, likewise Bikurim is limited to Shiva Saminim. V'idach eretz me'eretz. Now Rabbi Yechonon certainly needed this point as well. So how did he use me'artzecha for his halacha? The answer is there are two parts. There is, in the word ma'artzach, we have the eretz that connects you to teach you Shiva Saminim, and me'artzacha, that even within the Shiva Saminim, it has to be high quality. Vidach eretz me'eretz le'mashma. Rabbi Lakish didn't really hone in on this extra letter. It's just a mode of expression. Now we have a stira, an apparent contradiction between two brises. Tanichad. In one brise it says Sheba Gag, Sheba Churva, Sheba Atzis, Sheba Svina. Food growing up on the rooftop, in the ruins, in the flower pot, on the ship, maybe b'kaira. You can bring it as regular bikurim, and in fact you can recite the verses where you declare this is the first of your crop, this is, from the land that you gave me. We have another brayta which says, no, it doesn't really qualify for bringing up bikurim. Maybe if any you bring it, but you don't recite the psukim, because the psukim speak about properly grown crops, which this doesn't qualify. Now we have a contradiction. Here it says they're fully fine, here it says they're not. So according to Rish Lakish, we can explain that there are two levels of inferiority. Gag Galikasha. We can answer the contradiction between the Gag, Ha-Bagag the Mara, Ha-Bagag the Bayis. Depends what the Gag is. If it's over a cave, so more or less it's part of the surrounding topography. it's pretty much a regular field. It's just hollowed out on the bottom. Okay, not so terrible. It qualified. It's good enough. Habagag the bias. The second bias is talking about a rooftop over the home, which is not a place to grow things, and it doesn't really grow properly. So that doesn't really cut it. The same can be said about the churva. Same with the otzes. We're going to find distinctions. Inferior and terrible, right? Some are okay, and some don't even pass. Churva lekasha. Kan b'churva avuda. We have a cultivated, planted churva. Okay, that passes. Kan b'churva shen avuda. The other right is speaking about something which happened to be growing in some sort of random. You found it between the ruins. That's not considered a me'artzecha. That's not coming out of a proper farm. What about the question of the flower pots? Again, kambanaka. If it has a hole, so the content within it is considered like it's growing from the ground, that's me'artzecha. Kambanaka, but if it's unperforated, so it's detached from the ground, that doesn't qualify. And the same regarding the boats. Svina lekasha, the apparent contradiction between the boats is like this. Kam b'svina shalet. Depends what it's made of. If it's a wooden boat that's detached off the ground, that doesn't qualify. That's not eretz. That doesn't, Kam b'svina shal cheres. The first price is speaking about an earthen, a cheres boat made of pottery, which is basically earth material. So it's considered like it's growing off the ground. So according to Rish Lakish, we have an easy way to reconcile these two prices. So again, we have sort of three levels. One is optimally grown crops, right, in a proper setting. Then we have something growing up in a gag, churva, otzes, and sfina in a way that still is considered, part of the surrounding land, part of properly grown. And we have the worst, which doesn't really cut it. El Rabbi Yechon Kash, according to Rabbi Yechon, who says that if it's not properly cultivated, you can't use it for bikurim at all. Kashis, how do you explain the brisa which allows you to bring things off the gag, the churva, which shouldn't work according to Rabbi Yechon? It's not properly cultivated in a proper setting. Tanoi says the way you write to Machlekes Tanoim, and Rabbi Yechon will side with the opinion that holds that you can't. The Sani, in fact, you have a brisa which says like this: that if it's not grown in an environment which is conducive to proper growth, it doesn't work for bikurim. The sanya shebagag shebachurva, maybe a kair. It's up on the roof on the churva in a way which is properly cultivated, like we said before. In some cases, it's considered okay. Maybe a kair that works for bikurim, but sheba atzitz, sheba svina, a flower pot, a ship. That's it's not reminiscent of a farm at all. It's not a place to grow. It's not. It's like the dates on the mountain. It's like the grain in the valley. Hey, no, maybe kalika, forget about it. Don't bring it as bikur and don't bother. Okay, so bottom line is, you meant to use best material for karbonis, but even if you don't, it still works. But by bikurim, according to Rabbi Yechanan, according to Ula, it doesn't work at all. It's based on the pasuk mei artzecha. If it's not properly cultivated, don't bother. Whereas according to the other shitas, you can bring unless it's really, off the track, like an atzit shel eitz and all that. That doesn't count for bikurim. It's not the artzecha, but otherwise, even if it's not grown in an ideal setting, it still works. One more point. So Mishnah concludes by telling us that every offering, every carbon is meant to be sourced in the best material. And in fact, the Mishnah gave us some examples. Where do we find good grain? One is Afarim Babika. So Afarim was a headquarters for grain, for hay, which is made from grain. We're all familiar with the encounter in Mitzrayim between Moshe Rabbeinu and the Mechashim, the sorcerers, right, by Paroi, magicians. And he came with Aaron HaKohen. They made their oisos, their signs with the snake and this and that. So the local magicians turned to their guests in astonishment. Says, "Well, you're introducing magic to a magic town. I mean, who needs you here? We have enough of our own, right?" Basically, they were negating Moshe Rabbeinu's efforts. Well, you're just another magician. You're not nothing special. You're not coming with any supernatural, godly powers. So if you ever wondered what their names were, here goes. Their names were Yoichna, that was one of them, Umamre. These were the head honchos, the head magicians. So they turned to Moshe, Moshe, Tevan, you're bringing hay into hay headquarters? It's a marshal. Tevan at Menachos Afrim. You're bringing grain, hay into Afrim? which is the grain headquarters. Who needs extra grain? What are you doing? Amar Lui says, no, actually, I'm not bringing grain into grain land. I'm not bringing magic into magic land. I'm bringing something that you never saw before. This is something beyond your world. This is Hashem's Heilige Kedusha Koyach, which overrides all your nonsense. Amar Lui says, Amr Inshis. He responded with another sort of common phrase. People say, you want to sell your vegetables. Where do you go? You go to the vegetable market. What do you mean? There's enough there. Yeah, but that's where the experts are. That's where people come. That's where the connoisseurs come to pick the good stuff. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm bringing my supernatural godly powers to your magic headquarters. So you, the experts, can discern, can in fact study the difference and on your own come to the conclusion and declare that this is beyond, this is Hashem. In fact, that's what happened, right? They realize this is beyond their power. Etzba l'kim hi. That's exactly the purpose, the point here. I'm coming with my powers to magic land, so you, the experts, can discern the difference and acknowledge Hashem's all-encompassing power. Amr, people say Lamasa Yarka, a place where they have the where lots of vegetables grow, is the vegetable headquarters. Yarkashko, bring your vegetables there. That's where people will come by. That's where the crowd is. That's where the experts are. Likewise over here, you're the experts, and you're gonna declare in your own words, Etzba l'kim hi. All the best to you, and Atzlacha Rab.